straight shot, right? And then we have nonlinear behavior. So we could say an Ellison is linear, Paul is nonlinear. Okay, who do we see, or who will we notice more in the crowd? Ellison or Paul?
Paul.
Paul, for sure, right? Ellison could blend in, Paul's like, oh, there he is. Okay, so linear is predictable, it goes in a straight line from A to B. Okay, a nonlinear behavior constructively interferes. Okay, so when we use harmonics for imaging, we use the frequencies at twice the fundamental frequencies. Does that mean that that's as high as those harmonics go?
No.
No, they can go a lot higher than twice. Okay, I think it's detectable up to 8 times the fundamental frequency. Don't quote me on that, okay? But for imaging, we just use twice the fundamental frequencies. Yes.
So did you ever find out about the bio effects?
No, I didn't. Get your name again. Before we leave, I'll look it up. Okay, so we have fundamental and harmonic images. Okay, so we saw yesterday what happens when we take out the harmonics on the Samsung, right?
Yeah.
How did the picture look?
Darker.
Look darker. There was attenuations on Victor's liver, right? Okay, like towards the diaphragm. What about the resolution?
Degrade.
Degraded resolution. What resolution was degraded? Were you able to identify the borders between the tissues effectively?
Yes. Oh, yes, but.
Contrast resolution. Okay, the contrast resolution was poor because we couldn't see the difference between the tissue of the actual liver and the hepatic veins and the diaphragm, right? Okay, but once we turned the harmonics on, what happened?
Distinguish the.
You were able to distinguish the different types of tissues, right? Okay, because those echoes were stronger. Okay, they came from a higher intensity frequency, right? Okay, so this is poorly close. Okay, so this machine has a fundamental frequency of 2.5 megahertz. So what would be the harmonic frequency?
5.
5 megahertz. Okay. So does this little chart make sense?
Yes.
Why does it make sense?
Or is that a true question?
No. See, we have our frequency at 2.5 megahertz.
Actually, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense, right?
No.
Because the amplitude here is 2.5 megahertz. But is frequency the same as amplitude?
No.
No. They're different things. Okay, all this means is that there's more events in this cycle than there is in this cycle. Okay, so even though these harmonics don't have as much amplitude as the fundamental, they still look better. Why?
The shorter.
The frequency is higher?
Because what?
The frequency is higher?
No, it doesn't have to do with frequency.
Does it have to do with attenuation? Like
Yeah.
there's less attenuation?
There's less attenuation for sure.
Or does it?
Okay, there's less attenuation for sure, and the machine is looking for them. Okay, so the moment that we press harmonics, the machine will be looking for echoes that are twice the fundamental frequency, and it'll completely ignore the fundamental frequency. Okay, so it has less pulses to piece out where we get rid of the fundamental frequency. Okay, so that's why we go from this to this. What type of sector is this?
Pi.
Right? What type of probe mix is? Phased array? Yeah.
Yes. Phased array curve.
I have a question.
No, not phased array.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So on the Samsung, it's already preset. Like once we use it, the S harmonic is already there.
Yes.
But on the other machines, like the Mind Ray, is harmonics like something that we, like, what is it?
Yes,
It looks-
harmonics is something that's adjustable.
No,
by
no, no,
sound.
that's not what I'm asking. Like, you say that brightness is like up to me. Like, what might look good on me might not look
Oh,
on you.
okay.
Is that
It's
some,
subjective.
like that as well, or?
It can be, yeah, definitely. I work with techs that turn off the harmonics, and they just use a fundamental, and they adjust the fundamental images to look better. I prefer to use harmonics when I'm doing abdomen, because I like to show the borders between the tissues. But if I'm doing superficial, then I turn my harmonics off. And there's some techs that, for whatever reason, use the harmonics for superficial too, because they think it looks better. Okay, so
So
It's
it's
very
subjective.
subjective.
Okay.
it's very subjective, yes.
So as long as the doctor understands what he's looking at.
As long as the radiologist doesn't complain, just keep on doing what you're doing. As long as we're showing accurately that the patient is normal or has pathology, we're good. Okay. All right. So tissue harmonics. What do you think tissue harmonics happen? In the tissues. Yes, very good. Allison. Get ready for SPI. Okay, so tissue harmonics, when sound traveling through the soft tissue goes from the fundamental frequency to the harmonic frequency. So if I ask you what tissue harmonics are, this is what it is.
So, harmonics, is it when the probe hits the organ or the tissue and it causes that to vibrate? And then we get that vibration that
No,
is.
no, so, so let's just say, all right, so I'm gonna use that hallway example, because that's the only thing I can think of, okay, I have a really bad imagination, right? Okay, so if we go from point A to point B in a hallway without any resistance, we can calculate your steps, right? You can track your movement, and we can say Paul walks 12 steps per second when he's going through this type of tissue. Right, now, if we filled it with balloons, you know, just different types of balloons, okay, it'd be a little bit harder to predict your path, right, because we can't see you, but we know that the balloons don't offer that much resistance, okay, so it wouldn't be that bad. Now, if we filled some of those balloons with water, right, every time that you encounter those balloons, it slows you down a bit, but then it speeds you up, right? Okay, so that's creating nonlinear behavior between the movement. So it's that nonlinear behavior when the sound is traveling through the tissues that the machine captures. Okay, so all of those nonlinear moments constructively interfere to make a harmonic frequency. Okay. A sound wave is a series of compressions and rarefactions. What is a compression on the wave? At what point is it? On the actual wave. Is it the peak or is it the, that's it? It's the peak, right? It's a compression, right? Remember, it's being squished together. Okay? And then rarefactions is the relaxation of that distortion, right? Okay, so as sound is being applied to cells, the cells distort the same shape as how the sound waves are moving. Ah, cool. No one's afraid of balloons, right?
Have you ever met someone that was?
Yeah, I started blowing up a balloon and the student freaked out, she like ran to the back of the. And like the student never like displayed any type of emotion, she just smiled, and she was like terrified. Okay, so let's say that this is a cell, right? Now, that sound wave hits it, what two events happen in a sound wave?
On and off.
Attenuation.
Compression and rarefaction, right? Okay, so this cell will distort the way that the sound wave is moving. So there's a compression and there's a rarefaction. Okay, so this is linear behavior, right?
Yes.
Okay, now if it was like this,
Non-linear.
okay, so that's nonlinear, right? Because we can't predict when that cell's going to act irregular, right? So those are the nonlinear behaviors that determine the harmonics. Okay, so there's a distortion in the tissues as the sound is traveling. There's compressions and rarefactions. Okay. Okay, so the variation of speed alters the shape of the sound wave. Okay, so if this balloon was filled with water, would we be able to distort it as easily?
No.
No. If it was filled with cement, can we distort it?
No.
No, right? If it was filled with helium,
Yes.
easy, right? And it would float. Okay, so these different types of tissues cause different types of distortions, which cause different types of behaviors. Okay, so that's why the program is set at 1540 meters per second, because it's easier for it to calculate the soft tissue. Okay? The change in the shape of the sound wave also converts the fundamental energy to harmonic energy. Okay? Again, because there's nonlinear behavior within the cells. Tissue harmonics do not exist at superficial depths. Okay? Why don't they exist in superficial depths? Short, not the shorter pulses. Distance. Okay, so in order for those harmonics to be created, the sound has to travel through tissue and make distortions. Okay, so if we're imaging something that's like 0.2 millimeters away from the surface of the skin, it's not going to have the time or the distance to distort. Okay. So tissue harmonics develop later in soft tissue. Okay. Because they do not exist at superficial depths, harmonic waves are not distorted. Okay. So that means that there's linear behavior from point A to point B in superficial structures. The use of harmonics increases the signal to noise ratio. How do you think it does that? One more time? Sorry.
With the frequencies or the less attenuation it has?
Okay, that's attenuation definitely involved. What did you say? Go?
Because
No, go.
because the noise comes usually from like when it hits the tissue and the fat, and so the deeper it goes, like the noise is already, I guess, filtered out.
Interesting. Who else? Gold, what did you say?
I was gonna say that it gets rid of the low level echoes or something like that.
Oh yeah, yes. It gets rid of it gets rid of the low level echoes, because what creates those low level echoes?
The constructive
Constructive interference within what?
the body and the transducer,
Ooh,
the tissue and the transducer.
the bandwidth.
Oh,
The bandwidth of frequencies, right? Because of that vacuum material, you don't just have one frequency. We have a bunch of frequencies, right? So those frequencies have low level, low intensity echoes that constructively interfere and turn into noise. Harmonics don't have that bandwidth. Okay, so it's gonna be that one frequency only. Okay, so with tissue harmonics, the relationship between signal strength and harmonic creation is non-linear. What does that mean?
it's unpredictable.
What? It's unpredictable, okay, we can't predict it. Okay, we know that's gonna happen, but we can't determine when and where. Tissue harmonics are created along the main beam axis, which means it's parallel. It's traveling the same direction as a fundamental, okay? It's just within. I can't breathe. Okay, beams are most likely to create harmonics, are least likely, beams that are most likely to create harmonics are least likely to create artifacts. Okay, so what type of artifacts do you think?
Shadowing,
No,
Okay,
enhancement.
is
Whoa,
it grading?
Okay, so let's talk about the shadowing. What's your reasoning behind the shadowing?
Because it's only gonna be picking up certain frequencies, so if it's higher frequencies, lower frequencies, and it just focuses on that, it gets rid of the higher frequencies.
But what causes shadows?
Attenuation.
Attenuation. Attenuation of something that attenuates larger, right, like bone, okay? So does sound penetrate bone?
It's absorbed.
It gets absorbed, right?
Mhm.
And that's why we have the shadow. Okay, so harmonic frequencies will not solve that, okay? Well,
I don't know if I'm right, but I want to say the lobes, the grading lobes,
grading lobes, yeah.
because
Like
it's
what?
because it's
I don't see you, my issue is not even really. I see the boy picture.
Lost class.
Okay, lobes,
yeah.
Yes.
I want to say grading lobes specifically because it's from a multi-element
yes,
transducer.
it's an array transducer, yes, very good. Okay, so how does it get rid of the lobes, Cole?
Apodization.
Huh?
Apodization.
No, not
No,
apodization.
isn't that how you get?
Apodization comes from the transducer applying more voltage.
Yeah, they're not, it's centered right here, so it's not like, I don't know.
It has a smaller diameter and it's more intense, right? So
Um,
it's naturally doing what apodization does for us. Okay, what else? Has to do with the diameter. Lateral resolution, yeah, okay, so this will help with the slice thickness artifact too, okay, because it's smaller, it has a smaller diameter. Okay, so harmonics are beneficial in many ways, right? Okay, so the summary of harmonic tissues. Tissue harmonics are not present as sound leaves a transducer. Where are they present? In the tissues, okay, the body. They are created in tissues during transmission. They are created by nonlinear behavior in the speed of sound, and primarily created along the beam's main axis. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with the next PowerPoint.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that's it.
Are you in a rush or something?
You guys have any questions?
Not yet.
Sure.
Not right now.
Yes, so we do this all. We do this at home or what? We put our.
Okay, so let's go through this